The serious game I chose to review is Disaster Watch, which can be found on the christianaid.org website. It's a simple game targeting students K through 12 mostly. It's easy to follow and you can play fairly quickly. So if you click play now, it will take you to the first level. There are 3 levels and 3 separate disasters that you might encounter. Felipe is our host and our narrator. It's set in his village in Nicaragua, and he explains that we need to look through his village to find clues that there might be a disaster. So the graphics, I think, are fairly appropriate for the wide age group. They're simple, but I think they're appropriate to the game. We scroll through, and as you hover your cursor over the items, if an arrow pops up, that means that that's a clue. So if you click on it, the clue notebook will pop up, and you can decide when you see the clue if you want to keep that clue or if you want to scrap that clue and resume searching. You can choose 5 clues total for the first level, and when you're done finding your 5 clues, it will prompt you to choose, based on your 5 clues, what disaster you think might be coming. So the 3 disasters that you'll have to choose from are earthquake, flood, and food shortage. Depending on which is the appropriate disaster that you predicted would happen, the second and third level of the game are going to be based on that specific disaster. So while there are 3 levels to the game, there are also just 3 disasters. So if you go through and play all 3 levels, when you're done and you opt to play again, you will more than likely get clues to a different disaster, and then you would see the level 2 and level 3 change. For the purpose of this review, I have recorded video of all the levels and all of the different scenarios that you might encounter. So as you can see, Felipe is moving things around his classroom, putting them away because there's an earthquake coming. That was the disaster that was predicted. So what this game is doing is showing children that children in different countries have significantly different everyday lives, and that they sometimes are faced with natural disasters, and they actually have to take part in keeping an eye out for signs of those disasters, and they have to take part in keeping everyone safe during a disaster. So after you've completed the 3 levels for the specific disaster, which again right now we're watching the earthquake and Felipe is trying to get the children to go into the safe zone. Once you're done with those, you'll get a total score. So you click final score and it will show you what your total was. It gives you some options. You can submit your high score or you can send the game to a friend. So if you click send to a friend, it's going to allow you to put in your name and email and your friend's name and email and send the game to them to share it with them. And then you can return to the menu and you can play again. You also have the option to go and read some real world stories about some disasters that have occurred around the world in addition to just playing the game. So I've started it again. We're looking for clues to a different disaster. You can see the scene looks mostly the same, but the village has some different signs. So you'll go through and click and submit your clues and try and predict a disaster, which again, the 3 are earthquake, food shortage, and flood. So while we are watching that, I'm going to discuss what I think of the game. So as far as objective, I think its objective is met. I think that its goal is to teach and inform their audience, which I would say would range from students K through 12. I think that young students could easily play this game, and it would even be beneficial up through high school to give students an opportunity to, in a fun way, to view what other children around the world go through and struggles specifically faced by children that live in Nicaragua. So I think that it meets that goal. Transformative learning is definitely achieved. The player is shown and gets to experience a new culture. Then the goal is to impact their feelings and make them have a better understanding of another culture and what they might go through, things that children that live in the United States would never have to deal with, especially on a regular basis. I think the narrative is effective for the purpose, especially for the young audience. It's not too wordy. The player's given enough information to explain the game logistics and the meaning behind them without being confusing or having too much dialogue. I think when you get into too much dialogue, especially for younger players, it gets too confusing, and kids don't want to read really that much. So I think the narrative is spot on for what it's trying to achieve. The game mechanics could definitely be better. The game is played using the mouse, so you're scrolling through the village, just moving the mouse back and forth and landing the cursor on what you want to choose. And when you're choosing your clues, it's a drag and click kind of thing. But when you get to scenes like this one in level 2, where you're having to move Felipe through, and in this scene, because there's a flood coming, he's trying to sandbag the riverbank, and he's also got to scare off the loggers so that they don't cut the trees down. You're moving the mouse, but you're having to use the space bar to drag and to drop things, and it can get a little tricky at times. And I did find there were some glitchy areas that the space bar did not work at all. So I definitely think the game mechanics could be better. And then as a teaching tool, I definitely think it accomplishes its goal. It informs its audience about what it intends to inform. It is effective in that it's engaging. It does not take too long. You could easily play the 3 levels for all 3 of the disasters in, I would say, under 30 minutes. You could definitely achieve that. And you get a better understanding of the culture at that point. So I think as a teaching tool, it definitely fits the bill. So I think that overall, Disaster Watch is a cute and kind of fun way to spread awareness about places like Nicaragua and what other children in other countries face and what situations make their living a little different than the children in our country.